I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet, because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing? I hope you've had a good week. Before we dive into this week's episode, I just want to remind you of last week's episode, which was all about how to empower yourself to have a really positive perimenopause. And a big part of that, I talk about how you can best advocate for yourself, particularly if you need to go and speak to your GP or a doctor about maybe getting HRT or what is going on and you feel like you're not being listened to. So I give you some tips and some advice in there, which hopefully will really help you with that. But also just some things that you can do as well to make yourself feel much, much more empowered at this stage, because I think so many of us can feel out of control. So if you haven't had a listen, you can go back and have a little listen to that one. Okay, on to this week's episode, which is all about redefining fitness and exercise at menopause. I think so many of us, as we go through menopause, start to realize that perhaps the way we used to do things don't kind of work in the same way that they used to. Or we might even find that for some reason, we're not moving our bodies as much as we would like to for various reasons. Life has just sort of got in the way. If that's you, then this episode is definitely for you, because I had the absolute pleasure of talking to Dr. Maria Luque this week. Dr. Maria is an expert in fitness and menopause. She's got over 20 years of hands-on fitness experience and a whole decade dedicated to studying menopause. She's also a former US Air Force fitness program manager and holds a PhD in health sciences. And she conducted extensive research for her PhD on the effects of physical activity on the quality of life during our menopause transition. I really, really did enjoy this conversation. Dr. Maria has got so much goodness to share with us. She's also a busy mum. She's also going through perimenopause herself. And she also is the founder of her company, which is called Fitness in Menopause, which helps women navigate the challenges and also the rewards of menopause. So she is very well placed to be talking to us in this episode. So without further ado, please welcome the brilliant Dr. Maria Luque. Maria, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today on the podcast. As I've just said to you, I've been delving into your world and your content. So yes, I'm very excited about this conversation.
I am incredibly excited to meet. This is always such a wonderful time to meet people across different countries and continents. So I welcome any chance to meet new friends.
Oh, well, it's very nice to join forces together today. I would love to start by talking about your experience of fitness and menopause, because you did a PhD in fitness and menopause, which I'm so intrigued about, because you did this before you yourself were actually perimenopausal. So I'd love to know, how did that come about? What draws a younger woman to be so fascinated with menopause?
I was surrounded by women, so it just happened. I did my thesis for my master's degree on childhood obesity, which was very interesting. But I really, when it came down to the PhD part, I thought I'm really not interested in working with children. So I needed to figure something out that I was actually passionate about. And when I looked around who I was already working with and who my friends were, there were so many women already going through menopause and through that transition, and we're having a really challenging time. And at that point, we're talking 11 years ago, There was even less information out there than there's now. Now we're having those conversations, but there wasn't really anything besides, be healthy, eat healthy, like blah, blah. And so I thought, why not? I have to do something. I'm going to go ahead and just do a little study. And given this was, it's a qualitative study, so it's not very rigorous, but it was about questioning and sending questionnaires to women and asking them about their experience. And the focus was really about quality of life and figuring out how movement and physical activity plays a part in that quality of life. So it wasn't anything about weight loss or strength or anything. It was really about the experience and the quality of life component of it. And it really was mind-opening. And since then, it's really been my focus. Like once I really, focused in on how important the topic is, how little, once I dived into having, obviously you have to do a lot of literature reviews and reading on the topic. And I figured out that there just wasn't a lot out there on the topic. Then I really became passionate about it. And considering that I knew I was going to have to go through it at some point, it was very interesting to me as well. And now I'm right in the middle of it and I'm benefiting from the knowledge. So it was really, really all organic. It just, I looked at what was around me and there was a need, and there still is a need, as you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, gosh, 10 years ago, there would have been very little, I imagine, on this subject, because when I started delving into it about 4 years ago, I felt like I was sort of on my own. There was very little going. Now everybody seems to be talking about menopause. It's out there, which is definitely a positive thing because we're raising awareness and everybody is much more attuned to what they might expect. But there are also some disadvantages, I think, to that, because a lot of people are really taking advantage, I think, of women in really desperate times and trying to make money out of that. Would you agree with that?
100%. It's been dismaying and very frustrating to see, because I have been in this field for so long, before it was a sexy topic to talk about and the money-making topic to talk about, to see that we went from not talking about it to now everyone has noticed that there's money to be made. And so now the overload of information and misinformation, because it's not really only information, the misinformation part is almost worse, because now I have to say that 95% of women that reach out to me now are mostly reaching out because they're just thoroughly confused. They're saying, I've done this course, I follow these people, and I've reading up on this, and I've read all these books, and everyone is saying something different, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what's correct, and I don't know what there is to do. So, and then there's someone to always sell something. And when we're desperate, and sadly, in menopause, women are at a point, a lot of women are at a point that they're just desperate for help, and they're willing to try anything that sounds remotely good, and they're willing to spend money. And we know this is the new fat-free diet kind of crave, where it's like we're pushing all of this stuff out and saying this is the way to go, and you just have to follow this. So all of I feel like we're seeing all of those predatory marketing techniques that used to be sold for diets, and I'm given that we see menopause diets as well, but all of that's been behind the diet industry is being pushed behind the menopause industry now. And it's the same, but it's the same wheels. So once we take those layers off, it's the exact same tactics that are being used, the fear tactic, and then here's the promise, and the made up problems and the made up solutions. So it's sad.
Yeah, it is sad, because I think one of the biggest worries women have at menopause is weight. I think, it's something like 80% of women are dissatisfied with their changing bodies. So if someone's going to come along and say to them, right, here's a magic pill which is going to help you lose weight really, really quickly and really, really easily, then someone's going to go, okay, I'll give that a go. I'm absolutely desperate. So it's good to kind of just raise awareness, I think, of that. There is not an easy, quick fix. Most of the time it requires more attention than that. So yeah, don't get the wool pulled over your eyes. So you obviously have worked with so many women in this field. You had all those women you spoke to whilst you were doing your PhD. how does a menopausal woman notice or look at her relationship with exercise differently than she would before going through this menopausal transition?
That's a loaded question and a
I
really good question.
know. There's a
Yes,
lot in that.
there is a lot in there. And part of what you just asked is what I mostly work on with women, which is that re-exploration of what it means, what movement and exercise means, because most women, and I talk just about my experience with my clients and women that I talk to, the biggest problem that women face is that everything that I knew to work, or everything that I knew that I had pleasure in, that had results, no longer works. Yeah. It's a hard stop. Like, it's even, it could be women that have been always very active, and they knew that if they followed that ABC, then D would come. And they relied on that their entire life, kind of, this is what I need to modify to see the results that I want to see. And now suddenly, out of nowhere, and it really appears kind of out of nowhere, it doesn't work anymore. And so we tend to see the belly fat, which is what most women are mostly challenged by. So the biggest challenge is to reevaluate and disassociate movement from weight loss and physical body composition, right? Like that becomes the biggest struggle when we have to almost divorce the two and say, because the results no longer are as apparent from, if I wanted to lose weight before, all I needed to do is, right, work out more, I do more lifting, or do a little bit of running, and then I would see that result. That, because it doesn't apply anymore, there's a little bit of an identity crisis here, because it is, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I can't just accept that my body is changing, and that becomes the hardest part. So taking a huge step back and finding a new relationship with movement, which is, and with food, but with movement specifically, is the joy factor, the functional factors. So having more of a functional goals, right? If we can still progress, and we can get stronger, and we can get more functional, we can do all of these things, but our physical body composition may not change, regardless of what anybody tells you. We just can't control it as well as we may have thought we controlled it before. And so that becomes the hardest part. So I think the biggest part is figuring out, what is it that I really enjoy about movement? And that becomes a sustainable part of movement, because then when our focus changes from the physical component, or the appearance component, because the strength component is still changeable, then we can move forward, and the body composition changes probably will happen. Some of the stuff happens once we stop thinking about it and obsessing over it so much. But it is a real challenge, and I don't want to make light of it, like you just need to change this. But it is a big crisis, especially for women that have been very active their entire life. And then now now nothing works anymore. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive reframe, really, isn't it? Which is hard, because you're right, your identity is shifting. And so it's a kind of a process of letting go of who you once were, that you are no longer this 20, 30-year-old person who knew exactly how to manage your body, perhaps, maybe, or perhaps you didn't, perhaps you've always struggled with this, but to realize that actually now you've got to switch things up. And I really resonated with that a lot. I love the way that you use the word movement as opposed to exercise, because I do think that exercise for so many has real negative connotations attached to it. So I really like that, because movement, it relates to so much more than exercise, and we can all move our bodies. And when you said, we've just got to find the joy in movement, that is brilliant, because that's exactly what I talk to my clients about when they're trying to find different ways to move their body. It's like, let's let go of this word exercise and think about movement. Okay, there are certain movements which are really beneficial for women as we age, which we can go on and talk about. But actually, let's just start by finding something that you really enjoy, because then you're going to stick with it and you're going to enjoy it, because otherwise, there's no point doing anything you don't like. Is there?
No, there isn't. And I think we also, one of the beautiful things of menopause is that you start maybe not caring as much about what other people think, and what you might also get to a point where you're like, I just don't want to do things I don't want to do anymore. So it's easier to say no to things that you don't want to do. So if you're forcing yourself to do something that you really know that you don't want to do, it's time to reevaluate why we're doing it. And you're absolutely right. Like, there's some things that are just critical to doing, but even when you listen to the word, right, movement, it just sounds so fluid. It's just there's nothing hard about it. That's what we do every day. And you're absolutely right. The exercise part and workouts, there is, for a lot of people, it's that box, like you go to a gym and you have to lift weights and you have their machines involved, or there is there's those constraints that a lot of people put on themselves, that's what it means, and therefore I'm not going to do it because that's just not for me. So throwing all that out and using this period of time to take some time, because it takes time to rediscover. But this is a perfect opportunity to start from scratch, not from scratch, that's the wrong word, but kind of clean it all up and use everything that we've already learned, because we've been on this planet for a minute. We've already done a lot of the things that we know we like. We've done a lot of things that we know we don't like. Why don't we use some of the experience that we have and find the answers in what we know versus trying to get it from other people and telling us what to do? Because that's a lot what's happening currently, of just, well, what is it that I need to do? When I dare to say that a lot of the answers are already known to you. You just are not trusting that you know them. And so a lot of the work that I do with women is kind of rebuilding that trust that they've lost along the way in themselves, because for 40 plus years, we've been told, you do this and you do that, and you do this diet and you do this diet, and you're supposed to look like this. But it's always that external information that's guiding our decisions. And now is the time to really just take a step back and take account of what we know about ourselves. So it's a great opportunity. I want to look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, it really is, because I think so many women who perhaps haven't exercised for a while because they, one thing or another, they've, lives are busy, they've been raising families, or they just simply haven't wanted to, they haven't managed to find the time for whatever reason, I think really start to lose their confidence in their ability to exercise, to use their bodies in a way which is pushing it kind of a bit out of their comfort zone. And so we often hear them say things like, oh, I used to be able to do this, or, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. But I really love that quote. I think it was a Henry Ford quote, which sort of said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So it is a big mindset shift to actually, like, you absolutely can. You can do it. What's the first steps which you advise them on? How can they start to, as you said, it's about rediscovering, movement you used to love. What's the journey that you take them on? A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
Well, I think the first thing to answer is, what is the desired outcome? Because a lot of times women and people in general don't take that first step because they don't think they will get to that outcome that they have already set that is never going to happen. So again, it's like there's an association that with structured movement or exercise, there has to be but I want to be thinner, and if I don't want that, then there's no need for me to do that. So I think a lot of times that's what's holding them back from taking that first step, because there has to be a reason to move. And what if we take that away? Besides, again, it's like, what if it's just feels good to move? What if you, and also, one of the big things is recognizing how much we already move in a daily life. So a lot of times when I talk to clients initially, and ask them just about their day and how much they exercise, they only mention that structured, I'm going to the gym or to a workout class or a yoga class. But then I said, well, if you can walk, oh yeah, I walk like an hour a day. So, but they don't count that as a counting, like I can put it on my board as like I exercise, because that's already something I do anyway. So we don't take into account, like there is almost a value that we put on different exercises. And if we enjoy it or if we do it anyway, it doesn't really count. But if we have to make a plan to do it and maybe we don't like it as much, then it carries a bigger value because we've been told that that carries more value. And that's the only way we reach XYZ, whatever that is. So a lot of times that's just the first beginning. Just take note of how much you already move. And if you don't, walking is obviously the first thing that I would always, if we can get that in as a daily activity and we get to take that in as how good it feels, then that's one step in the right direction, connecting that joy with movement. And I think it becomes important to purposefully, and that's an exercise I do with my clients, of whatever movement you do, I want you to consciously think about how it made you feel. Because if we start connecting the feeling that we have with it, then it becomes a stronger attachment and we are able to make more long-lasting changes and behavior changes. If we don't like it, there's no reason to really force yourself to do it. There's nothing good that comes out of it. So that deconstructing all of the things that we've learned is a big one. But walking, number one, unless of course there's an issue on why you can't walk, then we have to think outside the box. But also, a lot of people garden a lot. That's movement. That's a lot of movement. So from a learning how to properly do it, maybe that might be the first step. So really, I like to meet people where they are and trying to figure out how to get movement into what they already do in their daily lives, rather than forcing them to buy a gym membership or buy a bunch of equipment, and trying to figure it out what will make it easiest to include those exercises or movement in their daily lives and improve their life. Because again, when we make that connection on how it actually improves your quality of life, then we can make big changes.
Yeah. How would you define quality of life? So for someone who's listening and they're going, okay, well, how is it affecting my quality of life? What would you define that as?
There is a quality of life is a perception that is everyone's quality of life is very, very different. And that's another exercise that is crucial, because if you don't know what impacts your quality of life, then you can't make changes that impact it. But in essence, it is what you perceive to make you feel happy. The simplest thing, I tend to compare two things. For instance, I like to go to a coffee shop and pay an overpriced price for a cup of coffee. If I can go and take a book or take my computer and kind of get into that zone where I'm researching something or doing something, but in that experience, like I like that. To me, that improves my quality of life when I have the time to do that, to go somewhere, drink a coffee in peace or anything. To other people, that would seem like a complete waste of time and money. They would rather go on a 5-mile run, which you cannot pay me to go on a 5-mile run. I really don't like running. I've never enjoyed it. So again, what makes you happy? Like what brings you, like when you think about something, does it put even an internal smile That is what it is. Sitting, when you think about sitting on, I see that really comfortable seat behind you, like that invites sitting down and reading a book. I can envision that. That sounds really comfortable. So if that brings you, like the thought of it brings you joy, that's quality of life. So we need to work more on doing more of that. If you're not doing it, why are you not doing it? If you like to get, like, again, if you like to garden, but you're not gardening, why are you not doing? Like, those questions are important. But we do, as women, we are always, we're conditioned to think of others' needs first, especially if you have children and you have partners and whatever it is, obligations, parents, or when do we take time to sit down and take account of what makes us happy or what improves our life in any way? It doesn't have to be a huge difference, but a small difference. So for any of your listeners, that would be one exercise to do. Think of one thing that you truly think about that you may not be doing as much as you would want to do, that every time you do it makes you happy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will have a challenge with that, just coming up with one thing.
And I think immediately they'll come up with a load of excuses as to why they can't do it. So as you were saying that, I was thinking this summer I am going to play a lot more tennis, because that's something I'm not particularly good at it. I've always wanted to learn. I've had a couple of lessons. I mean, I never was taught as a child. I had a couple of lessons as an adult, and I said it out loud the other day to my husband. I was like, this year is the year I am going to invest in some proper tennis lessons, because I want to play tennis. I want to do something different. I do a lot of running, and I do weights as well, which I really enjoy. But I want to do something with somebody else, more of a team sport. And well, it's not really team, but it's playing with somebody else. And so I'm going to do it. And I think that's the thing. It's like, what is it you want to get out of your movement? Is it to do it with somebody else? Is it if you used to play netball, perhaps at school, perhaps there's a local netball team. A friend of mine has gone back to netball and she's done that. Actually, I did a go back to hockey, which I really enjoyed. And so it's just finding these different activities, because they're out there. There are so many out there for people our age to join. And actually, you can have such a laugh doing it. And you don't have to be brilliant, it's all levels, all ages.
Yes, and I think, and you bring up a really good point, because it's also something that I ask people, and I've done some of that self exploration last year a lot, and I'm doing a lot more of it now. I used to, we were talking before the show, but I grew up in Germany, and racquetball is a big thing. Of squash, racquetball is here, but squash, and I loved it. I played it all the time. I came to the States, and because it just wasn't as available, I stopped playing. And I just rekindled that love affair last year by playing racquetball again. And it's so much fun. And it's just, sometimes life gets in the way and we forget the things that we enjoyed before. So again, just kind of looking at, what is it that you already know that you like? Why do we need to find new things? There's probably something that you enjoyed in your past that you stopped doing for some reason. And it's probably a really good reason. Like you moved, I moved to the States, was a big one, that adjustment, or you had children, or you had, life events that made you stop. But now is really a time where you may have more time. Maybe your children are out of the house, or maybe you just have more time, or maybe you're prioritizing your time to go back and say, you know what, this is great. Like I started doing roller skating with my daughter. That is a lot of fun. So those kinds of things that you forget, right? And again, like you said, you don't have to be good at it.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, I enjoy dancing, but I'm not good at it. Who cares? Just move your body.
So it does come back down, I think, again, to this confidence issue, though, because if you have been hibernating away for a little while, and perhaps you are experiencing menopause symptoms and you just haven't felt like it, so you've kind of let yourself kind of go a bit because it's not been a priority, it's how you get yourself back from that point to a place where you feel comfortable. And would you agree, Maria? It's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable to start with. It's going to take a little bit to get out of your comfort zone and take that first step. So how would you advise someone to go about that?
One tiny step at a time. Like, that really is the only way to do it. And you're absolutely right, because it is uncomfortable. And I think one of the key problems is that women go for long periods of time not realizing they're going through menopause. And so some of those, some of the symptoms, as you know, that are mood related, such as anxiety or depression, or those symptoms that aren't often correlated with menopause, women might experience those without knowing that this is related to the transition. And so actually being able to say, oh, there's a reason, then addressing that, and then getting some help for that, and being able to move past that. So a lot of times there's that hurdle as well. But if there are none of those hurdles, it's just finding a girlfriend or a community. Obviously always helps. But sometimes it's just you know what, I'm going to sign up for that Zumba class that looked okay. And who cares if I look silly? It's letting go of the appearance of the thinking that we have to be perfect at it going out, right? And feeling more comfortable. A lot of times, I think it is getting comfortable with how you move your body. So if you haven't been active or moving a lot for whatever reasons, just like I said, again, it's like just getting on walks, or maybe going on a hike, or doing something that is physically engaging could be that first step to reconnecting with how your body feels. And then taking that next step. It doesn't have to be a big step, but in your community, there might be a dance class, or there might be there's still step aerobics classes. They're fun. Those we can all connect with the step aerobics. We're all old enough to remember that. And so those kinds of things, instead of thinking a big change, I have to now join something. What is it that there is maybe within your community, or something that you can do today? Even if it's a workout class or a dance class on video, there's lots of classes. I have some friends that started doing dance classes by just following someone on video and just getting comfortable with their moving by themselves in the house. And again, that reconnection with yourself. Like, those would be the first big steps. Stop thinking that you have to jump straight into the pool.
Yeah. And I think since the pandemic, we all got so much more used to doing more movement, more sort of exercise at home. I certainly did, because everything obviously had to be done online. And so I think the idea of doing something at home nowadays is actually pretty normal. And in a way, you've kind of got that safety of your environment. So yeah, if you don't want to go out, yeah, just do something at home. I wonder about the other part of movement at menopause, which is really, really important, which is about really our longevity and our health as we age. Because for me, a massive part of moving my body is so that I can, when I'm an 85-year-old, I can carry my own shopping, I am active, I can still go out on lovely walks and just be really fit and strong. And I think that is what everybody needs to understand. It's not doing exercise or movement in order to look really kind of thin and muscly or whatever, that those days I think are, I should be completely gone. It's more about, like, let's keep strong and healthy for our older selves. So with that said, Maria, we have talked about strength and stuff on this podcast before, but yeah, how do we encourage women? How do we explain to women the importance of this?
Well, you're absolutely right. So I think although their movement should be a very open box and everyone should explore different types of movement, strength training has to be at the core of it. There is, and for all the reasons you mentioned, longevity, functionality. We know that the risk factor for osteoporosis is very big. And so taking those precautions, but you can't scare people into it. And I've worked with a local OBGYN, and we tried to put on an osteoporosis prevention program, like just a workshop to make them aware of what the risks are. And no one was really interested. And she said that she talks to people about it, and until they're diagnosed with it, it's kind of like, yeah, osteoporosis happens to other people, but not me. But that is something that I like to always highlight. It is something that you don't know is coming. Like, it's a silent disease that happens. It's a silent condition, right? Osteoporosis sneaks up if you don't get your bone density scans, which are incredibly important to kind of figure out where you are. But instilling the not fear, but the importance that your bones do age, and during menopause, something additionally happens that puts you at an increased risk for osteoporosis and bone fractures, is incredibly important. But also highlighting just the strength aspect of being able to do things that you weren't able to do. I think there's more of a success rate. Again, the fear factor is rarely a motivator. But when you can highlight, and especially when you work with clients, to highlight you started here, but do you see where you are now and what you can do? In my experience, no one's ever looked back and says, well, I don't feel better being stronger. So being able to realize these things. But I think the important part is that we are able to reframe what strength training means. Because again, when we talk about exercise and strength training, a lot of times women are turned off by the word itself, because it means we have to lift weights. And we have to, again, go somewhere and do it, or we have to have weights in our house. And what do I do with it? I don't know how to work it. So it's a complete no. But again, if we're using the gardening aspect, when you garden, you're lifting soil, you're lifting this. If you have children or grandchildren, you tend to lift them. So making strength training applicable to their daily lives, and how it will benefit for them to be able to continue doing the things that they love to do by including movements and exercises that are directly related to what they're doing. So it can't be that abstract, if you do some bicep curls, then you'll be able to do this. It has to be imagine we get two buckets and you're lifting them up. Let's learn how to lift them correctly. And that's strength training. So making it very applicable to, especially to those women that are not strength training already, because the ones that already love to strength train, you don't need to convince them. They're already doing them. The hard part is getting women that don't do it, but that really would benefit from it, on how to make them or convince them to do it. And in my experience, a lot of times it takes opening the door by sneaking in strength training with their daily activities. And then when they realize just how beneficial it is, then they're more prone to saying, oh, well, I'm very interested in doing more of that, and it doesn't have to be there. So they might be more open to doing personal training or doing something that is more strength training in the more traditional form. So I find that is a big hurdle always. So when we can overcome that hurdle and translate what it means, because that's what we do as professionals, right? We have to try to translate to what it means to them in their life. And that can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, it's finding the in somehow, and
yes.
Working out what is going to open the door to somebody to kind of at least have a go. Because I think you're right, once that door is open and someone is beginning to recognize, oh my goodness, I'm getting a little bit stronger, I've now progressed from being able to do this to being able to do that, that is just the best feeling, and that then builds confidence, and then it's easy because actually they've bought in, they can see the progression that you can make. And actually when you do, I found anyway, I mean, when I first started doing weights, which was only in my early 40s, I did no weights. I used to be a runner, did loads of running, and then I had a really terrible back issues, which now I look back in hindsight and I was like, God, that was all part of my perimenopause journey, because it hit me really hard, kind of late 30s, early 40s. And I didn't know that, but I went along to this, and it took a lot for me to do this, but I did know people who were going to this very small gym, which was literally at the bottom of my road, so that helped. But it kind of was like 8 people at a time in this tiny little space, but it was it was kind of group personal training, if you so we were all doing our own thing, but it was proper weight training. It would have been quite scary if I hadn't known anybody there. But even after just a few weeks, and I must admit, when I first went, I was really cringing because I was on the lightest of everything. I really couldn't pick anything up, even just to move a weight from A to B. It was like, oh God, I can't even do that. But honestly, within a matter of weeks, I couldn't believe it. I was moving up the weights and feeling incredible. And that really was what I needed to get me on this pathway to really loving doing weights. And I'm not a big person, I'm a slight person, and doesn't mean you have to be really big, but I feel strong. I feel really strong. And that for me is the feeling I love. So it's kind of trying to give that feeling to as many people as possible. It's not about managing your weight, wanting to lose weight or anything like that. It's that feeling of strong, because then you feel really empowered to be in control of your body. And that for me is what I want everyone to experience.
You made a really great point about the size doesn't have anything to do with how strong you are. There are people that are in larger bodies that are not strong. There are people that are in very small bodies that are very strong, and vice versa. So and I think there's still that hiccup for some women when we're talking about strength training, that I don't want to, gain too much muscle. And it's still there. And that is just such an antiquated thing. And also when we're in menopause, we're trying to actively not lose muscle. Like, you are way far from like gaining too much muscle. We're trying to hold on to what we have and hopefully gain some. But even if it was before, like letting go of that thought that if you're getting stronger, it means that you're getting bigger somehow, which does not correlate. It's not how it works. And then like what you said is like, when you get a taste of how powerful it feels to be stronger and to just be able to do certain things, it's something switches. I think there's a light switch that happens when you can open that door and show what it is. And it doesn't only have to be with strength training. A lot of times balance becomes an issue in as we go through menopause and as we get older. And losing and balance is something that is very easily acquired. Like, we just have to do it. We just have to practice it. And it's something everyone can do. But when people realize just how unbalanced they are, or like, well, how the lack of balance is actually there because they're used to always being with 2 feet on the ground and holding on to things. But if they get in a position where maybe they have to raise a leg and they tip over, it's a big wake up call at that point, where some limitations are being now suddenly it's like, oh, I didn't realize that was an issue. And the same with strength training. Sometimes it takes for something to happen or something to not be able to lift something, when then you realize that, oh, I'm losing strength. And it is one of the big things that women, when they reach out to me, notice, like that, like not lack but loss of strength. That happens even for people that are active and strength trained. You have to make a conscious effort to progressively strength train to keep that strength up and to become stronger. So we just have to keep having these conversations, really. But it is at the core of everything there. I don't think that you can live a long functional life without some sort of strength training. And that's just a blank statement. I don't think it's possible. Like, strength is important for longevity.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, what you say is that first and foremost, it's about finding an activity, some sort of movement that you love, because that it ultimately is super important just to get you moving, because movement keeps everything working. And then alongside that, at the same time, if we can try and get some sort of strength or resistance training into your day, then that is going to help you stay strong, going to build your confidence. And ultimately, the sort of the amazing side effect is that it will actually probably help you if you wanted to lose weight, do that. But that's not the goal. That's not the main aim. But actually, that could be a very healthy side effect, but do not focus on that. Would you agree with that?
100%. And also, one thing is, if you set a goal of becoming stronger, that is an achievable goal. And there is a formula. If you do X, Y, Z, and you continuously progress, you will get stronger. That is almost a guarantee. But if you set out to lose weight or lose that belly fat, you might get there, but chances are it's a futile battle. So it's the fight that you want to get into. Is it one that you actually can pursue, and you know that at the end of it, you will get there? I can guarantee that if you follow a certain program, you will get stronger. Unless there is something unusual. Most people, if you follow a strength training routine, you will get stronger. I can tell you that. So why would we not want to follow something that is achievable? There you can you have a success at it, versus attaching yourself to something that you will fail at most likely, and constantly fail at and over, because the belly fat battle is a revolving one that keeps on going. And the more we focus on it, the more we see it too, right? So it's, even if you lose it, we've learned this before. It's the losing the weight, and then you get to that weight, and then you still are not happy with that weight, and then you want to lose some more. So it has something to do with something much bigger. So yes, strength is something you can actually achieve, which is incredible. Like, it's a goal that's achievable. So
yes, I just love that, because yes, we can all do it. I know it. I've done it. And, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I really love that. And I do think then you get all the benefits of all that confidence building, all those feel good kind of feelings, and that ultimately is what it's all about, isn't it? It's about feeling good, which circles us really nicely back to that quality of life, because if you're feeling good, you're going to have a better quality of life, and that's going to make you want to move even more and be more active, because you're feeling great in your body. So I think that's a nice place to wrap it up. One last question I always have, Maria, is to all my guests, is because this is called the Positive Perimenopause Podcast, I like to leave the listeners just with one practical, actionable tip which they can take away today and put into practice. What might that be from you?
I would say the one thing, if you have thought of something that you would want to try, but you have just thought that it would be too silly to try, or you might not be good at it, just do it. Just do it. Like, it's, let go of any constraints that are out there, because you will be surprised at when you make that little step into that unknown. It's going to be very liberating, and it's going to be incredibly powerful. Like, that is a powerful move that you can do. So that would be my suggestion. Find something maybe in your past that you really enjoyed doing, and do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I love that. And just to say, when we go through menopause, so many of us actually kind of lose those rose-tinted kind of perspective that we have on everything. And actually, a lot of us just have that kind of real, like, oh, God, fuck it, I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. And so let's use that to our advantage and just think, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about us. Just live and do it. We've lived long, we've lived on this planet for so many years. And so who cares what anyone else thinks?
100%. And that's really what it is. Just do it. That is the one thing. Just do it. If you thought that you want to try it, just do it. Don't Don't attach anything else to it. If it's been in your mind, do it. Just try it.
Thank you so much. Maria, where can people come and find you? If they want to get in touch with you, find out more about you, where should they come?
My website is the best way because you can email me. Well, actually, my email, it's maria@fitnessandmenopause.com. I love to hear from people. So if you email me, you get on my newsletter, which you can do on my website, which is fitnessandmenopause.com. And I'm on Instagram as well. But the direct link to me is my email. And I love to hear directly from women. So if you have any questions, just email me directly.
Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed it. You've talked so much sense. And I think you've just hopefully given women, particularly those who might have been a bit fearful of getting back into moving, I think you've given them so much to work with, and hopefully that they're going to feel really inspired to get moving. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having the conversation and having me.
I will, of course, put all of Dr. Maria's contact details into the show notes. Here are today's highlights. Number 1, beware of predatory marketing techniques, especially when it comes to miracle weight loss and menopause cures. Number 2, at perimenopause, it's important to reevaluate and disassociate movement from weight loss and physical body composition, because our bodies are changing, which means what used to work for us might not work anymore. Number 3, perimenopause is also a time for re-exploration of what movement and exercise means to you. Spend time discovering how you want to move your body in a way that you enjoy, rather than forcing yourself to do exercise you don't really like. Number 4, a great place to start is to take note of how much you already move and notice how it makes you feel. Number 5, think back to what movement makes you happy. Is there something you used to enjoy doing which you no longer do? If there is, just give it a go and do it. Number 6, be kind to yourself. If you haven't moved much in a while, take one tiny step at a time and start small. Remember, the most important thing to do is just to try it and do it. Number 7, strength is important for longevity. As we age, we are actively trying to not lose muscle. So getting stronger certainly doesn't mean getting bigger. It's about staying strong. And number 8, change your goals to make them achievable. If you set a goal of becoming stronger, you will get stronger. That's a guarantee. But if you set a goal to lose belly fat, there's a chance that that might not actually happen. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And if you have, do feel free to come over to wherever you listen to your podcasts and rate and subscribe. And if you feel called to do so, come over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It means the absolute world, and it really does help get this podcast out there. And if you feel like someone you know would benefit from hearing this, then why not send it to them? It might be just what they need to hear at the moment. Thank you again for listening. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully I'm going to hear from some of you who are going to join the founding members program. Take care. Remember, you are doing the best you possibly can. And I shall see you next week. Bye.